Okay, can you tell us, tell council what the issue was that you?
On September 3rd, I handle most of my father's utility bills. I opened a bill and he had a water charge of almost $5,200. So I went over there, found the problem. It was a toilet valve fill deal. And we got a plumber out there and we've got it fixed now. But he didn't tell me that I needed to come or somebody needed to come to the council to tell you guys what happened. So I missed the last meeting, apologize. But Carl had told him to pay the average bill that you get per month, which is about $95. And we paid $150 and we've done it for 2 months now.
Okay. When did you fix that, Kurt?
9/9. I have the plumber's deal right here if you need it.
Give a copy of that to our city clerk. Appreciate that.
Okay.
So it looks like it covered over from the August and to the September billing more than likely.
It did because the second bill was still 600.
Yeah.
So it did kind of pass over to billing cycles.
Mhm.
Make a motion to adjust the August and September billings to the average of the previous year.
Second, Doug.
Motion second to average the August and September bills to the average of prior 12 months.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Carl Nell.
Abstain. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Thank you.
Item number 6D, account number 09-2387-00, at service address of 2104 East Fox Lane, Guy Cannon. Mr. Cannon here? Evening, Guy.
There. I have the September water bill, and it was $341, and we didn't know we had a leak until we received the bill, and so we started looking. So our meter is 330 feet from our home,
Oh, wow.
and it's out in the pasture. So once we found it, we came up here, water department, and they said fix it. So we got a plumber, paid for the repair on that, and then from August the 21st to September the 21st, it was $341. So when I got ready to pay the $100 that was suggested, it would make one payment. They told us we used another 64,000 gallons between the time the bill was sent out. This bill was sent out, and the next one's going to come. So the water department came on October the 5th and said we have no leaks. So they verified that us repairing it with the plumber took care of the problem. So we're,
Dina requested I point this out to you on the screen.
and she said the total bill was $720.
This is to
So
show.
740, 720. It was 58,000 plus 64 that we didn't know we had.
2 months.
What
Yeah,
she's-
from,
All this is to show is that he's going to have another high reading for
Right.
October. Okay.
So we'll just do the same thing from September, October.
Okay.
Yep.
Make a motion that we adjust the water bill to September and October of this year to the average of the previous 12 months.
I'll second.
Motion second to average the September and October bills to the average of the prior 12 months.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Carl Nell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Guy, man.
Thank you.
That's all. Good evening.
thank you.
Item number 7, monthly treasurer's report.
Right, so I'll start off with our sales and use tax, because the month of September, we received 726,000 in sales and 94,000 in use. So the total received was over 820,000. This is our highest month to date by over 25,000. In September, we were 21.2% ahead of where we budgeted to be at that point. And this amount is also 16.3% higher than September of 2020. Our debt balance is down to 3.8 million. Almost 2 million is on the PWA side and 1.9 million is on the general fund side. All of our departments are operating at where we budgeted them to be at right now, or less, except one, and that's wastewater. And that's because, I don't know if y'all recall, but those real expensive pump repairs last fiscal year, they didn't actually get fixed and repaired and billed until this fiscal year. So that pushed them over. And you'll see that on the budget amendment to help them out with that account. We did finally receive our last splash pad grant reimbursement in September. So that's all done. The fund balances are as follows. In the general fund, we have 3.8 million. In the fire department tax fund, it's collected 295,000. We've spent 352,000 this year. Capital improvement tax fund has 1.6 million on the 70% side and 530,000 on the 30% side. We did pay for the Portland overlay rebuild in September, which was $166,000. Economic development fund has 38,000. Cemetery care has 59,000. Parks capital improvement has 52,000. You'll see that drop this month because I got the bill for the playground that just got installed. The fire station fund is 1.4 million. Admin and technology, 66,000. Grant cost share fund, we now have 910,000 set aside. In the PWA side of the house, we have 2.8 in public works, 1.1 in water impact fee, 1.2 in sewer impact fee, and we have $2 million set aside for our wastewater plant. And that's all for September. Any questions?
I was just curious, is that just typically a high month for us, that as high as it was?
For the sales and use tax?
Yeah.
It honestly varies. It's not typically the highest month of the year, and you'll hear next month that this month was even higher. So it's just, we're seeing a good trend. Kevin and I talked about readjusting our revenues so that we're a little closer in line with what we're actually receiving in.
It's all good news.
Great news. All right, item number 8, general manager's comments.
Water department's been working on some items out on Highway 76, and they're going to be, they talked to me about it this morning, they're going to be laying some 12-inch in the area there of 130 and 76. HMS has requested basically a larger line, I believe, or a new service line, because they're talking about adding on to that building there at 130 and 76, just back to the north. So the water department has been looking at that area and determined that it would be best that we lay a 12-inch. Jim can explain it a lot better than I can, but preparing potentially for an extension on down Highway 76 to the south of a 12-inch line, and also preparing for a potential water tower if ever there was ever one installed in that area anywhere in the future. The 12-inch would be stubbed out, be able to be connected quickly. They're working also, still working over in the Grigsby area. For whatever reason, they have not been able to get a DEQ sample back T sample that has passed. They have now fluorinated the line yesterday for the 3rd time and was pulling the water off today. He thinks that by this Friday we should have results back, or maybe Monday of next week, as to whether or not that's going to pass. And it's all for them. It's not bacteria or anything of that nature. He said it was just dirt in the pipe, and they just can't get it to clean up. A few folks that are upset in that area right now, but they are working on it and trying to. Everything is installed. The services are ready to go to be installed once we get back to So, he did, in our department head meeting this morning, he did mention that he is now back at full staff in that department. Been touch and go for a little bit with personnel, trying to get personnel to actually, or applicants to actually apply in the department, all departments for that. But we're back up to full staff.
Got
We'll
the
look
extra
at,
applicants that didn't bring on, it might be.
well, I would say.
Steve Harmon water needs some too.
And I will go ahead and tell council now that our superintendent is retiring at the end of this year. And we've had his assistant superintendent in charge of the department for the last 30 days, trying to basically see how he handles the department, how he operates the department. Thus far, he's done a good job. So, communicating with me very well. It's a very, very important position, as y'all all know, of course. So far, he's doing fine. That's all I have.
All right. Item number 9, any trustee comments? That's pretty easy. Item number 10 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second for adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. This time I'll call the Tuesday, October 12th, 2001 meeting of the Newcastle City Council to order. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Carl Nell.
Here.
Mike Fullerton.
Here.
Tommy Clay.
Here.
Gene Reed, absent. Marcy White, here.
Item number 2, discussion and possible action on approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second for approval of the agenda.
Carl Nell.
Here, yes.
Mike Fullerton.
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Gene Reed. Marcy White.
Yes.
Getting all cylinders.
Thank you.
Any more coffee?
Coffee over there?
What's in?
It's copy syrup.
I caught myself off.
Item number 3, citizen comments. This is an opportunity for any citizen to comment on any matter related to the city of Newcastle that is not on the agenda. Once again, all speakers shall clearly state their name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with only one speaking opportunity. Council members will not respond to comments or questions. The mayor may end comment period at his discretion and prior authorization is required for distribution of materials or to approach the council. Enter any citizens' comments related to the city of Newcastle. All right, item number 4 is the consent agenda. Any items any member of council would desire to be removed from the consent agenda and addressed individually.
No.
All right. And seeing none, item number 4, consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second for approval of the consent agenda.
Mike Fullerton.
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Marcy White. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 5, discussion and possible action on any items removed from the consent agenda. We no action on that agenda item. Item number 6, item 6A, planning commission recommendations. Public hearing, discussion and possible action on planning commission recommendation to approve application to rezone property to PUD plan unit development E2 urban estate residential for Billy Ray Taylor and Barbara R. Taylor located in the east half of southwest quarter of section 24, township 9 north, range 4 west, in Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma, and for adoption of ordinance number 892. Property address 1931 Southeast 16th Street, Newcastle, Oklahoma. Case number R 2021-011.
Good evening, council members. Janae Greenlee with the Planning Department. The applicant this afternoon requested to withdraw this application and sent an email requesting to withdraw. So we will not be hearing this item this evening.
Thanks, Steve. And no action on item number 6A. Item 6B, discussion and possible action on adoption of emergency clause ordinance number 892. No action on this item as well. Item number 6C, discussion and possible action on planning commission recommendation to approve application to rezone property from E2 urban estate residential, the CC2 community commercial district for Marisol Vasquez, located in the northwest quarter, the northeast quarter of section 10, township 9 north, range 4 west, Indian Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma, and for adoption of ordinance number 893. Property address 212 Northwest Place, Newcastle, Oklahoma. case number R 2021-012.
Good evening again. The applicant, the applicant called this afternoon, and she is not present. She has to work, so I just wanted to let you know that the applicant is not present. I will go ahead and proceed. And this is a request to rezone from E2 Urban Estate Residential to CC2 Community Commercial District at 212 Northwest 24th Place. This is a zoning map, so you can see in this area here, these have all been rezoned from the E2 to CC2 for future commercial development along this main arterial with the Loves and the casino here and the hotel. So the applicant has come forward to request basically the same thing that has been approved in the past. She doesn't have any plans right now as far as development wise, but is requesting to rezone.
Is that where all the horse stuff is?
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I was wondering. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay.
So to the north, like I stated, Love's Travel Stop and Casino, single family homes to the east, south, and west. It is compatible with the surrounding zoning. Planning Commission and City Council, as I stated, approved ordinances 807, 808, and 809 in 2018. The minutes reflect the site screening and landscape buffer for future commercial development. That's what was the conditional improvement by City Council. Planning staff supports and recommends approval of R 2021-012. And Planning Commission did recommend approval at 4-0. I do want to state that there is a private easement in this area here. It is there's a water line and a private septic easement here to serve this property. As you probably recognized in the staff report, that this, when it does come forward for commercial development, this will have to be platted and go through the platting process to recognize all of those easements. So that at that time, those easements will be included and taken care of through the platting process.
And eventually that entire area being zoned commercial, that house will go away and that private sewer will no longer be necessary.
She's just doing that, go ahead and proactively doing that in order to sell with the rezone.
Correct.
Any questions from council for director?
Comments or any comments from citizens?
Well, I'll see you with this.
I don't.
Oh, you're planning question.
There was not any comments during Planning Commission. No, sir. As our planning chair just had wanted to mention that as well with this, if you would like to, you can also attach that landscape buffer and site screening for future commercial development if you wish to.
Any public comment concerning this agenda item? Here's the 50 overall.
I mean, we understand that. Those said anyway, but doing these up here in this buffer area, those ordinances are requiring site screening, correct?
That is correct.
So that would apply to this no matter what, right? Do we
I
have to-
believe that the minutes reflected that that was an addition during those ordinance, when those were
Okay.
adopted, that the council, and maybe the commission as well, had recommended that the site screening and the landscape buffer, just to shield the, southern residential portion.
If I could just shortly on that topic, we didn't add that in on this one. We just didn't think to address that, but we did do it on the other one, and this will border some residential use, so it might be appropriate.
So we could basically just say match the site screening requirements.
Be the easiest way.
Property.
I will note too that, any CC2, anything that's designated commercial CC2, if it abuts a residential neighborhood for a straight zoning, the rear setbacks are increased. So you do have that as well. Where it abuts commercial development, it's a,
Well, and they would have a site-proof fencing requirement also.
Mhm,
So there
correct.
would be some buffer there, but it wouldn't have the trees and shrubbery. And that's what was added to the other.
Okay. That's what, I was thinking we had a built-in buffer, but that's what I said.
Recommend it. Keep it the same.
Just match the same buffer zones that we have on the adjacent commercial properties.
Wants to make a motion.
I make a motion that we approve item 6A, adding, sorry, 6C. I was looking at C. It looked like. Make a motion to approve item 6C, adding that we were requiring the same screen and buffering that the adjacent C2 properties have.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item 6C as amended.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 6D, discussion possible action on adoption of emergency clause of ordinance number 893.
Motion to approve agenda item 6D, adoption of emergency clause 893.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 6D.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Marcy White. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item 6E, public hearing, discussion, and possible action on an application for rezoning from CN1 Neighborhood Shopping District to PUD Plan Unit Development for Riverview Estates for R&R Land Development, Rocky Clark, located on the southwest border of Section 33, Township 10 North, Range 4 West, Indian Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma. Property address, southwest border of Section 33, Township 10 North, Range 4 West, McLean County, Oklahoma. Newcastle, Oklahoma, case number R 2021-010. Continued by Planning Commission to 10/25/21. Be no action on that. Do we need to make a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we continue item number 6E to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
Motion second for continuance.
Is that Tommy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm not allowed enough.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's forceful. Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 6F, discussion and possible action on planning commission recommendation to approve the final plat of Oakmont Phase 2.
this is the final phase in the Oakmont addition, phase 2, planned unit development. The final plat and the improvement plans meet all of the requirements. Planning staff and the city engineer recommend approval of Oakmont Phase 2 planned unit development and final plat. Planning commission did approve 4-0. Our planning chair did want to make mention that on 2 of these lots, on the cul-de-sac, the concern was fill and if there would be a need for retaining wall. There was some discussion about that. We have instituted a on-site pre-construction meeting with the developer and with their contractors to discuss issues on any concerns that had been brought forward, as well as when the improvements are completed, we have our engineering, our city engineer, and our water and street sewer PUP superintendents do site visits and inspections before we will accept any of those improvements, and they look at the complete overall site. And any issues at that time would be addressed, as well as when they come in after their final plat has been filed of record, and they're ready to start obtaining building permits. At that time, each building permit will be looked at individually when they come forward. The applicant's engineer is here if you do have any additional questions.
Remind me, I know I should remember where this is at. But
Oakmont,
Highway 76, just north of 26th.
thank you, sir.
Oh, Rocky Clark. I'm sorry, I knew I should know. It's been a long day.
It's
Thank
okay, it has, I understand.
Yes. I'm with, I kept going, oh, one. I know that.
Any additional questions for Janae?
What abuts here?
Single family,
And is there, assuming that
This is-
elevation, this elevation is higher here, so you're talking about retaining wall
Mhm.
possibly?
yeah, and this is the natural drainage area, this
And
creek,
this is a low lying area?
correct.
How much difference in elevation?
I'll let that.
Good evening, Dean Kalidas, Environmental Consultants, representing the applicant, civil engineering firm for this. We did the plans and everything for that. There is a grade difference there, but we do plan to pad that out. And if there is a need for retaining wall, I talked to the owner this week, and he said that he'd be happy to do that and have an engineer review that for the city to make sure that that's, buildable lot. So it's not there is a ravine there, but this area, we can pad it out and grade it. But once you get to the common area there, as you can see, there is a creek that runs there, but we want to stay out of trees and stay out of that common area. So we would just only pad it what we can build on there. So yes.
Bad enough is actually thought, but we've had just issues with higher elevations abutting other neighborhoods that come in and just the runoff causing a lot of problems. Just over.
Yeah, and we'll provide, we've got a detention pond provided for rock and everything there as well. So we'll make sure and handle that drainage that does come on.
I think the steep slopes is been one of my biggest issues.
Uh-huh.
Because we've had some that have been over 3-to-1 slopes. We all know the even greater than
Yes.
3-to-1 is not good.
Yeah, the owner is prepared to provide with retaining wall if need be for that. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just follow up on that just a little bit. As the planning commission approved this, that was a concern, and we requested that that be addressed. I think the comments that were made tonight and Janae's discussion and comment with to me that with the inspection process, we can catch that.
Yep.
We wanted to make sure there was something in place that let it be inspected, caught, and have a hammer to properly developed. Just on the surface, I'll throw out, I'd be concerned if the cure is to just build a pad, build a house on the edge of a cliff, but I don't think R&R builds that way most of the time, so I think we can address that, and I think they've addressed the issues that should put the planning commission's concern.
Any public comment concerning this agenda item? Please state your name and address for the record.
What is it saying right there? Is that still the crash date?
Yes, sir,
Okay, so nothing
Yeah.
changed on that.
nothing changed.
Okay. Mark Sandusky. Okay.
All right, any other public comment? All right.
Make a motion to approve item 6F.
E.
No.
No, sorry, sorry. You're right. Hey. I need more coffee.
Blurry.
He is messing with you today.
But I make a motion to approve item 6F.
I'll second.
Motion second for approval item number 6F.
Yes.
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 Yes. Item number 6G. Discuss the possible action planning commission recommendation to approve final plat of Windermere Phase 5.
This is the final plat for Windermere Phase 5. The final plat and improvement plans meet the requirements. The planning staff and the city engineer have reviewed and recommend approval of Windermere Phase 5. The underlying zoning tract 6, Phase 5 is an RF1 single-family residential zoning district. Planning Commission did recommend approval 4-0. Happy to answer any questions, and the applicant's engineer is here as well.
In the big picture of things, is this the far south end?
Yes, so this location map, here is Country Club, and this is the new entrance here into
Okay.
Windermere.
You gotta take the plat and twist it around.
Yes,
Make it
you
north
do.
south.
Yes,
Yes, I see that up there now. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Trailer right here, right? Trailer park and.
At the corner,
Yeah.
yes,
Is there still more property to develop south of that?
no,
This is the southern.
yes, sir.
Southwestern portion.
And I've been driving over there. I remain with audible concerns. Before they started working on the land over here, I had even more. I am very concerned because the people over on First Street and on Larry Drive have already had a lot that continues to be a problem, and it looks like it's going to just get way worse. I feel bad for them. They've lived here for 40 years, some of them, and we're here to protect their best interest. And, you know, they're not complaining about things going in there at all. They just don't want their property with mud all over it. And I don't blame them.
The developer did address,
It didn't fix it.
well, he did address the issue over there, up next to those lots that are on the north side of First Street with a 4-foot concrete wall. They did bring in fill last week that brought the dirt level up to within 8 inches of the top of that wall. We got a phone call from one of the property owners over there. I went out and looked at it. I called the developer, met him on site Thursday afternoon. And the slope back there is 3 to 1. Going into that wall, my concern was 8 inches below. It's not going to hold. They seem to believe that once they sodded that slope, runoff would be slowed down and wouldn't have no issues going over the top of that wall. So I persuaded him to sod it the very next day, which they did. I went back out Friday evening and it had all been done. All the sod put in all the way up to the top. The lots, the way that they brought in more dirt and the way the lots are sloped, it all goes toward the roadway. The back side of the lot is 12 inches higher than the front part of the lot. And I asked him what his plans were. I said, what's your plans if this doesn't work? If sodding does not work and we still have overflow going over this wall, what is your plans? And he assured me that he would add to that wall with dowel pins and whatever height needed to be added to the wall. So to some degree, I kind of agree with him. I'm not 100% sold, but seeing how they sodded it all the way down through there, and the slope is a 3 to 1. Most of the runoff on the pad on top of the actual lot is going to go toward the roadway. You're talking about 20 feet from the top part of that slope to the wall that is actually going to be flowing toward the south. And I think, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I think he has a viable point. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not real sure that, now I will say this, that sod was put in on Friday. We got the storms on Sunday night. I have not heard anything from any property owners on First Street. So I'm not saying nothing happened. I'm just saying I haven't heard anything.
What happens 4 or 5 years from now when that 8 inches of clearance is catching the water now, silts in eventually, and it does start running over, then what happens?
Then it'll have to be addressed with the wall, if he's still around.
Well, that's my concern.
That's my concern, that we're doing something that may work until he's out of town. And I would like to see.
I'd like to see some engineering on this.
I would too.
I'd like to see an engineering out saying that this is what that needs to be done to divert this water away from these houses. This is what you have to do it. Not I think this will work.
Right.
I mean, we've had so many issues over there, and we've put up, and he has attempted over the months and years to address this, but I just don't think it's been tried to be done as minimal, and I don't understand money's money, minimal as possible without, it's a progressive deal. I just think we need to get some engineering to say, he needs to have paper engineering to say, this is what you need to do.
Well, his engineer did engineer the wall and was out there on site with us when we were talking about that. I mean, they think it's going to work.
the water diversion, even with the wall before they built up the last couple of weeks, was not working. Because all it did was push it down on the other end of the wall's not long enough for one thing. It's the water diversion's not working with the wall like they have it, because it just pushed it out further on the other ends of the wall. And that's what they're seeing, and that's, they've got mud all over the driveway, they're filling up under their decks, the pools.
Well, that wall, the wall did stop the mud. I mean, I was out there after it was put up, watching it. I've watched this thing for the last year. So it did stop the mud from going across there. I saw what it did to people's property back there. I worked for 6 months to get them guys to put that wall up. And it did stop the mud. It runs from just to the west of Mr. Max's property, all the way down to the very last property. And then over across on the other side of Larry Street, they put up concrete wall next to Mr. Cruz's property, for the same purpose.
Past the last property on First Street.
Runs down to the end of their property. Right up to the corner.
Yeah, aerial of that.
I don't have an aerial of it,
I
no.
can,
Now, the only thing, you know, and one of the property owners through there said, you know, made the comment back then, a year ago, well, we didn't have this kind of a problem until they built these lots. Well, that's not true. I mean, there was water that actually flowed that direction. Now, you know, according to engineering, water was not increased. The path was changed. And I pointed that out to the developer. Yes, you did change the path of the water in the direction it's going, because they did have channels in between a couple of houses on First Street, and then there was a channel over here on the end. So it did change the path of some of that flow, but, you know, to make the statement or comment that, you know, we just didn't have this water on us before, well.
They had working channels before.
Well, they had working channels to a point. I mean, it's still not Larry Street, but First Street. It doesn't drain properly either. There's problems on that street on West First.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that there's not drainage issues along First Street. I've driven up it several times. You know,
Yeah,
pipes are filled in,
Right.
crushed, or wrong sized.
yeah. Drainage ditches are,
Yes,
but it's an older addition too.
and there's no addition. The only thing I'm worried about is where this wall stops. Back here.
It stops right there where you see the UE,
Right here.
just,
Mhm.
yeah, it's right in that corner.
Yes.
So it's basically, if I'm getting this right, all this water is coming this direction. On the top of the pad sites, down, and dumping out right here.
Yeah.
When it was before it was sodded, a lot of it was going that direction, yes.
Okay, well, it's still gonna drain, I mean, if you get a 25, 50-year flood, it's still draining this direction, it's still gonna eventually get, I guess the thing I'm worried about is how much water is dumping out here, and is that changing what was happening prior to?
It used to be going between the house with the pool there, right below the UE, to your
Right here?
right, to your right.
Here?
It was going right there where that white line is. That's where it went for
Down the
many
lot line.
years.
Down here?
Yes.
Yeah, and there is a drainage channel right there where she has her cursor as well. Now, not much went through there prior to this build. It did go through the main channel right there. Yeah,
Do this one.
yes, but there was a channel,
So
that
now
goes,
we divert from here to this channel.
yeah. And it did change it. It changed the flow.
I know water, pre the last couple of weeks, the water's kept into the back of a couple of the house, inside the house on a couple of those. Or one for sure that I know of. And I can't tell you from that which one it was specifically.
And this where about the wall starts here?
Yes.
Which house it is. Yeah.
Remember?
That's Max's right there.
Correct.
So the developer's engineer is here, is that correct, Janine?
that is correct, sir.
Would he like to come up and talk drainage for a second? We would love that.
Good evening, Jason Spencer with Craft and Toll Associates, 300 Point Parkway Boulevard, Yukon, Oklahoma, on behalf of the applicant. So now this is the first I've heard of this, and I guess you met with somebody from Crafton Tall out on
Brad
site.
Reed.
Who was
Brad
that?
Reed.
Oh, Brad Reed.
He
Okay.
was the one handling this back then.
Okay. And so, I'm more than happy to get with the developer and we can take a look, come back out if we need to have another meeting out there to look at it. I can come out there and take a look, see what's going on. So this is south of section 4, is that correct?
All over toward the east,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Now, you've heard the concerns here tonight. The concerns is that what is done there thus far, nobody thinks is probably adequate long-term to control the drainage coming off those slopes, even if it's only a 20-foot. The way it's done, at some point in time, with very little clearance back there at the wall, it's going to silt in and then start coming over that wall again, whatever drainage there is. I think we need a better engineered way to capture that water and take it somewhere where it won't impact those 4 or 5 houses right there that are, during this period of time have ended up with their swimming pool full of mud, water in their homes, water in their shop buildings. So a good long-term solution that 10 years from now, we can all be happy with the way it was done, that it's still working well, or 30 years from now. So.
I mean, right now, there's sandbags around this area for some reason.
And that may just be leftover erosion control measures. Sometimes around inlets and other things.
There's no inlets.
Okay. And I'm not sure, I can't speak to that phase.
It's like they're diverting the water on down to something else. I'm not sure what.
They had put sandbags right there, Mike, because the water was coming down Larry Street right there and then turning to the east and going down Mr. Cruz's driveway.
Mm-hmm. So has that been resolved? We don't have sandbags out in the middle of the street.
I don't know that it has.
And so where is that water supposed to go that's coming down Larry Street?
It should divert over onto what I understand, it should divert over to the west side of Larry, hit the drainage ditch, and then head south. Yes.
And do they just need to get that cleaned out, or why is it not, are we not getting there?
Now, I don't know that it is engineered that way to even divert it toward the west into that channel.
It wasn't.
I mean, I know there's a
It's a new
wall
flow.
running behind, what's his name?
Mr. Cruz.
Mr. Cruz's house. And that may be resolving his issue in his shop stuff.
Yeah.
But again, is the water hitting here? Is it coming back this way? Is it coming this way? Is it coming back toward the detention pond? I don't know.
I didn't bring the plans for that phase tonight, but I'll tell you, I mean, what probably needs to happen is I'd be more than willing to come meet you out on site out there. We can do it later this week or next week.
That would be fantastic.
I'll contact you and then we can, and I'll see if the developer can meet us there as well. We can take a look, see what's going on with that wall, and then take a look at some of the other issues and see.
Okay.
I'm hesitant to approve the final plat until we get this resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Kevin said, we've been having issues with that drainage for a long, long time. And it's just been kind of piecemeal, we'll try to do this, we'll try to do this. We want something that we can all feel pretty confident that's a long-term solution. So we can just move forward with this. If that's a bigger wall, if it's redirecting some drainage, whatever it is.
If this is where it's coming, but it's coming over, is there a way we can create some sort of permanent drainage?
If there's an
Is
easement,
there easement there?
Right.
I have to.
I mean, it's a new.
Either get an easement or if there's not one, or
Well,
work on
where
getting an
the,
easement to do it. Huh?
the original drainage is, there's a lot of space over to the other side of the house where it was. There's a lot better space there. There's some space there, but not like where it originally went through.
Janae, do we have any drainage easements going through there south of that? Off one?
No,
No,
there's not. No, it'd show up here if there was.
that's what I was thinking.
They're
So-
on there. I was talking with Kevin. None of these lots here have any building permits that have come through the door yet. So those are all vacant still. And part of the issue too is that there's not sod on these lots. There's no vegetation coverage on the lots. We are implementing new development standards at the time of construction to make sure that, the paving or the grading and drainage is appropriate throughout the development process. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but these lots here really need to be, drainage needs to go to the street, because this is all curb and gutter. So it should be carried to the street here, correct?
Not necessarily. It looks like some of my sheets clip the edge of that. I mean, it looks like water was draining to the south. And so by putting the street in, we probably cut off some of the drainage that was coming through there. But what happens, like you said, if we've got a wall now, especially if it's got a lip on it where it sticks up, water will run down that wall and then pick its spot to leave. So if it's running all the way at the end, it may need to be, like you said, going between,
Here.
exiting between two of the other lots or something so that it goes back to its normal route.
And who's gonna be responsible for maintaining, if there's a ditch behind there, which is what we're basically forming, whether it be a pilot ditch that's paved or just a grass ditch, who's gonna maintain that ditch? And how are we gonna get in there to maintain that ditch?
Yeah.
If it's a dedicated, public UE, then it would be city.
Is there enough room for us to get in there? On a 3-1 slope?
Here.
How wide is the utility easement on the south end of those lots?
Pardon?
How wide is the utility easement where this wall is gonna be?
I think
10
that's
feet.
15, 10,
I think it's 10 feet.
10 feet. I can tell you.
Well, that's tight. Do we have equipment that can get in that location?
No. At this point, no, not since the wall's there and the slope.
It's a 15-foot UE here,
There's no way to get into it.
right there, this one, and I believe this is 10.
We don't have anything as far as utilities in there, but the electric. Obviously.
I mean, even if they like paved a pilot ditch, that would stay there, we can come back and clean the silt out of it.
Yeah, like I've got one behind my house. Yeah.
It still wouldn't, I mean, if we can't get the equipment in there, it doesn't do any good.
Mhm. Help me understand, and this is just my lack of understanding, why does it have to be built so much higher than the houses that are existing? I mean, like when you're driving in the Windermere on those roads, you see only the roof of those houses.
It's built to the same level as everything else that's built out to the north.
Sewer has to flow.
I asked the same question out there last week.
I don't, it's
There's a
my
lot
lack.
that goes into it, because obviously we try to avoid having steep backyards and things like that, but I mean, trying to get the earthwork to balance, get your sewer to work, get your drainage to work, other things like that.
Yeah, it's my lack of understanding, so that's why I'm asking. I don't understand.
What was the fill in that area?
I couldn't tell you. I wasn't around for the design of that one.
Okay. I mean, the only thing I'm worried about, and I've commented to you about the sanitary sewer, worrying about it, snaking under the ground underneath so much field. If it wasn't compacted well, I don't know how well, if y'all had, I didn't know if y'all had testing done on the compaction factors.
We require the contractors to basically test all field and make sure it meets 95% compaction. And so all fields that are done are tested. That's also to help ensure that we're not building, giving builders houses that are, lots that are, vegetation underneath them or wood pile underneath there, other things too, and that the field's actually been compacted the way it's supposed to be.
The only thing I'm worried about is our sewer line snaking itself underneath there eventually.
So, yeah, and I don't really think I don't think that's a concern on something like this. And plus if the sewer's in the back, so I think it's in that slope then, or sewer in the front.
It's
I
in
think
the
sewer's in the front and the field.
Front. So, and I mean, I can't see, but there was towards the edge of the map I brought for this phase, so I could see a little bit. I mean, there's some slope going on back there. And so I don't know how much of it was fill. I assume that by the time you flatten pads and everything out, you're pushing some of that slope to the back. So the very, very edge of it maybe, but the front of the pad may not be a lot of fill.
I don't know.
Well, where I'm at is, there's a lot that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can sit here back and forth, but I think it needs to be, city staff needs to meet with them and the developer and come up with plan that appeases everybody on this. And at this point, like I said, I'm ready. I don't want this
I don't have the confidence that it's gonna be
been too long.
done
I know they've tried things, but it's just,
unless we make them wait until, and approve the plat once it's done and workable. I don't have the confidence, and that's not in you guys at all, but it's just in the history of what they've had to deal with.
Well, how about, I mean, we take a continuance and then give us time to meet. And
Yeah,
That'd be great.
yeah, I mean,
I'm not talking about denying it, I'm saying we got rid of it.
yeah, right, right,
It's our only hammer we got.
Understand.
yeah, exactly.
I'll make a motion to continue item number 60 to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second,
Motion second for continuance.
Well, if I could, I address a couple questions, a couple issues here, just so that you've got the information while we're talking about it and setting it in. On this particular property that we're talking about, this drainage, and it's a problem. I would note that Carl Evans on the planning commission, as he looks at that, the developer has, in the way they develop those lots on paper. I've been out there, but on paper, the drainage that used to go to the south to a major extent has been taken to the north. However, there's a portion of it that's been concentrated and comes down that slope. And that, of course, presents a problem because it's concentration. That's enough for my comments on this because it's engineering stage now. But on the application that's before you tonight, that has a detention pond in it. And they have, partly we addressed this in planning commission, the drainage out of that was, you've seen it too, the drainage out of detention ponds that is an approved rate is concentrated and it's different than what it was before. It may not put out any more water than it did before, but you're putting it out typically in a more concentrated fashion. On the detention pond on tonight's matter, they pulled the weir back into the property some so that it has a chance to spread out back over the area they're draining it across. But that's still going to be a concentration of the area. We're seeing that up here on Newcastle, the states of Newcastle. And as you look at that and as they look at it and come back in, I'd like you to be aware, watch that, and we'll watch it. And there you go. The engineer knows that now that's an area of concern and they can address it for you. Thank you.
All right. Item number 7, discussion and possible action on approval of an agreement with Glenn Sullivan and Associates Inc. for engineering and surveying services for the Tri-City Sewer Line Extension and elimination of existing lift station.
I was hiding.
Thank you.
Well, I snuck in late. I got caught in a wreck and wanted to make Gordon nervous back here. Staff brought this to us, quite some time. I think that most of you are familiar with it. We looked at a couple of options. One was taking it a long way around the ramp and tying it in. And then we got to checking a little bit more and surveyed a few more. A couple pages longer or on up there, we get into the alignment, Camille.
Let's go down to, I think you said maybe, okay.
Yeah, the last page
Sorry,
of
it's
that.
actually-
Oh, it is on
Yep,
there?
yep, so
Yeah.
scroll down.
There's an alignment.
this is one by Walgreens and all that, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Everything up there by the Walmart and everything on the north side of the highway drains to a lift station, and then it's pumped across to the gravity sewer. It really should have gravity sewered in there to begin with. But, so staff has been toying with this a long time. This is an opportunity. You've got, not counting the plant, the main lift station at the plant, you've got 6 lift stations, I believe. And you've seen the costs come through on replacing pumps time and
Yeah.
time again. It's the biggest, that's north is to the left.
Okay.
It's the biggest ticket item probably that you've got in the wastewater department is the O&M on your lift stations. This is a chance to get rid of one. We've got a chance when we build the new plant. We will be on Pond Creek with the main plant lift station. We then, in the future, could potentially eliminate the Bradford lift station and the US 62 lift station. But this is a chance to do that. It's kind of a ticket item. You can see that area. It's going to be a mess. One of the first jobs that I did when I was hired by the city was to bring an 8-inch water line just off the service road down to this intersection down here. Lots of utilities in there. But we think we can fit it in there somehow. This also takes a leg up to Luigi's.
Gotcha.
That's had, there's been them and there's probably other, if they've got sewer problems, then other people in that area probably have sewer problems too.
And this will be engineered to where we can eventually take that all the way around to the north, almost to the river.
Yes.
Okay, all the way to,
We will get it as deep and as flat. We're gonna oversize. It's the existing line is a 10-inch.
Mhm.
We're going with a flat 12. DEQ will allow that because this has plenty of capacity. We're doing it to keep it just as deep as we possibly can. It won't go all the way to the river, obviously, because you get to a point you
right,
really,
yeah.
but we can get it back up in there.
Everything pretty much developable on that
Yes.
west side up there,
Yeah,
all the way over to the overpass there.
we can get it. We can get it back up in there.
The lift station's in the parking lot out by Leslie's Pools, right?
Yes, it's actually down off the screen down here.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, you can see we got a lot of stuff. There's a lot of utilities in there. There's fiber. I believe there's gas. We're going to be meeting with a lot of people. We got to get ODOT's approval. Part of this we want to put between the highway and the service road. That's going to take some fast talking.
And right now, everything that's up there that flows in and goes into that lift station goes back a little bit to the west, and then it goes through, I believe, an 8-inch bore, Kenny.
I believe so.
And
It
so,
goes back down this way somewhere, doesn't it, Carl?
yes, and goes across, around, not quite the Sonic, but around the Sonic area, there's an 8-inch bore.
Oh.
So we were, at some point in time, going to hit capacity issues on that 8-inch bore, so this will take all of that that's coming into that from Walmart and that area and take it out. Everything going to that lift station will no longer go through that smaller bore. So that'll buy us some time on capacity for that bore.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's a 4-inch force main, wasn't it? Wasn't it a force main coming across?
Yep.
It's an 8-inch steel casing, but
Yep.
it's only a 4-inch PVC force main. It's pumping on that.
So that'll help us out in that respect too. All right, I'm ready.
So I make a motion, that we approve the city enters into an agreement with Glenn Sullivan Associates for the engineering surveying services for the Tri-City Sewer Line Extension.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 7.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Ronnie Black,
Yes.
Marcy White, yes, Carl Nell.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sir. Item number 8, discussion of possible action approval of proposal of Poe Engineering for professional engineering and design services for the Southeast 40th Street Bridge project.
This item needs to be continued. We did not receive the proposal as of yet from Poe Engineering on this. We're still a couple of days out.
Can you
I can give a brief.
give a brief on that? I would appreciate it.
So apparently down on Southeast 40th, just west of Western, there's an old bridge there that we've had issues with now for at least 12 years or so. It was shut down at one point quite a few years ago, and we did a little bit of work to it, just on the decking and whatnot. Well, now somebody is building either a large, and I was going to ask you guys about that, and I forgot to do that. It's either a large shop building down on 40th or it's a large metal house, and I hope y'all know about
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
it. Yeah.
Yes. I was just ogling.
Kevin
that.
Haybrook, Development Services Coordinator. So all indications right now, that's what's known as a barn dominium,
Okay,
residence barn type of complex.
Yeah.
gotcha. So that barn dominium is just west of this bridge. Well, apparently materials trucks or whatever something crossed that bridge and busted out some runners. Basically has now put it in a position that riding a bicycle over it's a little questionable. So our street department shut it down. They put big piles of dirt on both ends of it. And we have an emergency exit for the houses that are west of that bridge. They go out through the Stonebrook addition, which is also causing us problems. So we made the call to say it's time to replace this bridge. It's been sitting too long like that. Yes, it only services 5 to 6 houses down there, but that's 5 or 6 houses that do not have a normal way to get out to Western and conduct their business. So, we're hoping, we already have the beams for the bridge that are down at county. Right now, we have 5 of them.
6.5.
Oh, yeah.
So that will be a cost that we won't have to bear on that. We met on site with Poe Engineering last week to kind of look at this bridge and talk about it. Real rough guesstimate on that is maybe $250,000 to replace that bridge. So in my mind, that's not that big of a cost to us to have them come in and take care of this for us.
So basically, we're building the same style bridge that we've got on 16th Street.
Correct, and concrete decking. That's right.
Yeah, that bridge has been, I used to take a tractor across it 25 years ago, and it was pretty scary doing things. Ain't got any better.
I think 200,000 for a bridge is not bad price, to be honest with you.
So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Just west of Western, you said?
Correct.
There's no need to continue this, we can just go back on it.
Yes.
So we'll just take no action on
Okay.
item number 8. Item number 9, discussion of possible action on appointments to Newcastle Parks Recreation and Beautification Board. Item 9A, appointment of Olivia Snow as a member to fill the position vacated by Wayne McDoulet. I'll make that motion.
Second?
Motion second for appointment.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 9B, appoint Tanner McGuire, Newcastle Parks and Recreation Director, as ex officio member of the board, and I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion second for appointment.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 10, discussion of possible action on approval of bid and award of contract for asphalt overlay project on Southeast 24th Street between Portland Avenue and May Avenue for labor and equipment to A-Tech Paving, Oklahoma City.
This would be Southeast 24th, between Portland for an overlay project. Basically, we have a couple of roads that we need to do an overlay on. Our crews do not have the time to get to everything that's on our project list this year and on our budget. We do have funding that's available to do this. And don't give me that look. She gets mad every time I talk about it.
I'm glad you're a timeline.
We do have funding through
You're
our
washed up.
through our 70% money to take care of this project. And the only thing that I will say about this that kind of concerns me just a little bit is we sent this out to bid. It was let out to bid for 3 weeks or so, and this is the only bid that we received. So I'm not real sure if it's just because it is labor and equipment and, you know, companies that bid asphalt, of course, they can mark that up a little bit, make a little more money, but
Yes. Yes, you can't market, you're not marking up your material, but you're also not paying and carrying that note, it's not kind of
correct.
stuff. So, I mean, you know you're bidding labor equipment price, and with labor equipment, you get your margins.
Right.
Go. I think the biggest part is probably capacity of companies to, fill all the positions.
Yeah.
Could be, could be.
That's what we're running into across the board. I mean, it's just,
Very
The
possible.
lady that showed up.
Looks like we feel for
Yeah.
Lack of people were real busy because they didn't have
they don't have
the
time.
employees. Yeah.
There's,
Yeah.
So this is to basically just do the overlay, or are they gonna do some patching and leveling beforehand, or?
The agreement or the bid required patching and things of that nature, whip milling, anything that was required to,
And are they gonna stripe it, or are we gonna do that?
we would be doing the strike. We, yeah, I found that, well, we can go over that, I'll mention that. in the
okay, all right.
Well, this is something that we've been actually a few years not acting on because we've been trying to acquire additional right of way. We were able to acquire about 3/4 of it, and we just can't get that last half mile, and I don't know when we're gonna be able to get that last half mile. And so this road is horrible. We need to do something. So it would be much better if we could get the rest of it and do better drainage and do some other things. But well, it'll eventually get, because that land will eventually develop and they'll eventually give us 50 feet. But we can't require that now. So this will definitely make some people happy. Yes, ma'am.
Motion approved, agenda item number 10, approval of bid and award contract for asphalt overlay on 21st
Actually-
Street. What?
We did get a proposal on this?
We did,
Oh, okay.
156.
Right behind
550.
you.
Now, as,
Tech paper.
well, so we'll say too, before we go any further, that doesn't include asphalt. We're estimating asphalt at about 75,000.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion second for approval of item number 10.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Klein,
Yes.
Marcy White, Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 11, city manager's comments.
Along the same lines of this here, we are now looking at County Line Road, doing an overlay on it in our portions over there that we have to take care of, which is about 2.5 miles worth. So John is, the street superintendent, is actually putting some numbers together on that for me now to what he kind of feels like it may come out at, but also contracting this one out so that we can get that done. County Line is just as bad as 24th, if not worse, and I have received, over the last couple of weeks, I've received some calls from individuals over there that are not happy. So it's time to do something with that roadway as well. And we went out there and did all kinds of blade patching time after time after time, and it just doesn't hold up. So I'll be bringing that back to council probably next month on that. Harvey Street. Harvey Street was next on the list after finishing Portland. However, it's going to be probably pushed back until the spring because we have hired an engineer. The engineer is supposed to start November 15th. He has extensive drainage experience and things of that nature and doing those types of plans and whatever. So he's going to be put to work real quick when he comes in, and get him to start looking at that area and formulating some sort of plan to make sure that we have drainage doing what we need it to do before we build that roadway and waste our money on it, which is our concern.
I know we talked about this before. In the interim, I know John was going to start trying to work with landowners to acquire additional right of way down there. Has he started that?
He has not.
Okay. That would probably be something that would be good in winter projects.
And we can do that, and the engineer is very experienced at that as well, and writing those documents and everything else. So he did a lot of, what was the name of the project he's worked or did in Illinois?
Did a couple of large water and sewer line replacement projects along with street widening. And forgive me, I forget the exact name of the
Can't remember
project.
the drainage that he, huge
Broadway, wish I would have brought that application with me.
Anyway, I mean,
Very impressive, very
Yeah.
impressive. And when I talked to his supervisor today, outstanding review as far as experience in working with citizens and acquiring right of way, dealing with citizens when we're doing repairs in our easements. Very knowledgeable. He's worked for the city of Champaign, Illinois for 8 years. And before that, he worked for a consulting firm. So he's worked both private and public side. And I think he's going to be a great fit and be a huge asset to the city and having it full-time in-house civil engineer.
not that we're kicking Kenny to the curb by no means. We still have to have
You'll let me finish a few projects.
Yeah.
a lot of projects.
Big project.
Have we, I sent you the email on the House Representative Bowles on the ARPA funds.
The mayor responded back to that
Yeah.
And my understanding, county line not fall underneath that,
Infrastructure.
on the
portion of it.
infrastructure part of that.
Well, I mean, it's,
Yeah, we gotta move though, and
It's
there's no
fine.
telling when if that bill will pass, and if it does pass,
Yeah,
when the money would come.
I know,
I mean,
yeah,
we've got some angry people.
I know.
if we could stack this one right on top of 24th,
Yeah,
which I'd like to go ahead and get it out to bid, then, there's a chance maybe that could be done before winter sets in. We'll see. Could run them concurrent if we get a different company.
that's true.
Yeah. So,
Um,
a couple of other things just real quick. We ordered 5 police vehicles in July, right after the budget was passed. We still haven't seen them. We still have no idea when they're coming in. Chips, parts, you name it, and it's a problem.
With the
Our,
equipment.
huh?
So we do
And
have,
we already
we do
have
have
the
the
equipment.
equipment. Good.
But five police cars, 1 command vehicle for the fire chief. Ordered at the same time. He was told me this morning that possibly it should be here in 2 weeks. We'll see. 2 pickups, 1 for City Hall for the parks directors, it was supposed to be for, a pool car for City Hall. We have no idea when that's coming in, although it's been ordered. So we have issues we're having issues with equipment and vehicles. On the flip side is personnel. The PD has run an ad for officers, a minimum now of 2 times, and I think it may be 3, and cannot get applications. Of course, being in the police department, there are issues there that we know all around the country. But also, I think some of it, and there's other bigger departments here in the metro that are having issues as well. Some of ours could be related to salary, starting salary. We are going to be looking at that very heavily here over the next 2 or 3 months. We begin negotiations in January. Won't get too deep into that, but we're going to look at it very hard and try to make adjustments best we can to get those salaries up on police and fire, because fire received 8 applications for 3 positions on this, just a month ago. And, because we lost 2 positions, and third is potentially retiring next month. So we went ahead and filled that position in preparation for that retirement. We've discussed, of course, negotiating that pay plan to help with that. We've also discussed, and there are some cities that are doing this, of actually providing some sort of sign-on bonus to attract people that are certified, certified officers, but we may have to look at that as well.
Honestly, time when I don't have any issue with that, as long as it's a contractual obligation
Right.
that they fulfill so many years.
Absolutely, and yes.
Yeah. But I would agree that we need to look at the starting side of it. I mean, I tell you what, in our business, I've had it ad out on Indeed, on everything else for a mechanic and a warehouse guy. And I mean, talk about crickets. I'm talking where 3 years ago, I'd have had 100 applications to be sorted through. And I mean,
Yeah.
I got, in a matter of a month, I've got 5 applications for mechanic positions.
It's a constant adjustment. I mean, in order to attract people, street department finally made an offer today for an operator that he's been needing. But I had to adjust a couple of salaries in order to get this person in the door. And it's constant. It
affects us across the whole board.
It does.
When you do that, so it's tough decision to really messes with budgets real fast.
Yeah.
It's ever evolving right now. It's crazy. So.
Anyway, that's
That it?
that's where we're at.
All right, item number 12, council member comments.
I have one. And I don't know what we can do about it, but if we can, I don't know, but when the growing facilities burn off their stuff, it's like a Woodstock for the people that live around them. I mean, it's like, they literally look outside the gray, their homes are overwhelmed with it. Yes,
I didn't think that they were supposed to burn. I thought they had
I've heard two different things.
dedicated places they had to go to.
Right, to dispose of it. I heard that from someone who's a grower, but then I also heard, and I mean, I guess I could say like Christy Ferguson, the Fergusons live right there. I mean, she's just like, we can, and our entire house inside, we don't have to go outside. If we go outside, it's just clouds.
That's their filtration problems that they have down there. And Tim and Jack had actually went out there once before and told them, I believe at that time, we need to check back in on that. If there's still issues, they're not doing something right.
About a week.
They actually are burning too.
Yeah.
They're
they
burning
got a
outside?
permit. Yeah, they got
Really?
a permit.
No, we can't do that.
This is the one on Main Street.
Yeah, it was awful. Christy Ferguson was at the school board meeting, or she'd have been here. She's like, we can't, she said, it is unbelievably overwhelming.
I'll speak with the fire chief.
Okay.
I mean, we're not allowing them to burn brush over here off of 76. Why would we allow them?
Well,
to burn?
that particular day, I mean, if it wasn't that, it wasn't like horribly windy. I'm sure they gave a permit. I don't know on that, but I'm sure they would have given anybody else a regular one. We're all so afraid to not cross those lines, but I don't know what the rules are. But I will tell you, it's a problem, whether it's at the city level or state level. It's not okay.
Is this, I mean,
I will file a complaint with OMMA and have them do a site inspection to make sure that they're compliant, for the odor, to make sure that they've got the carbon filters installed and all their filtration is, up to what their code is.
Have you carbon filter an outside burn?
No,
Oh.
for the inside
Yeah.
smell as well as, and then the outside, if they're being compliant with the OMMA as well.
Right.
Well, we can shut that down here with our fire department
Yeah,
real
okay.
quick.
Yes, sir.
Along that, and that was something else I was going to mention, sorry. OMMA is ramping up enforcement. I saw that, last week, that they had new director of OMMA and said they're going to be tightening things up. What I did want to mention to council is, I think it is very important, it would be very prudent of us to start to have a special meeting on marijuana ordinances. We don't have anything in place at this point, so we need to really start talking about this, because petitions are floating now for recreation. So,
I heard that, yeah.
I mean, we really need to start trying to get something in place.
Gather up other cities and let us know when you got enough information.
Yeah,
And,
I'm in.
how about you get work out of Greg and
I'm sending an email right now
Very
to
good.
Mr. Chris Lentz. He does some work, he's done some research, and
Yeah.
it's pretty familiar with OMA, and I would have to say that outside burn would be.
that should
I
be-
just can't imagine, I asked her
I mean,
if
I
they were
can see
getting
it on
live.
the county,
They burned
and I
it.
can see it
Well, they're burning
underneath
the,
a
not the flower, with other parts of the plant.
fire stop.
But, yeah, but
But I
I was like,
can't
can
see
you
it.
hide from that?
Yeah.
Just rolled out on the ground and lit up.
Right.
I
I'm
have
sorry,
no idea.
that's like you would a brush pile.
From what I understand, they're supposed to have a disposal company come pick
Yes.
up
Yeah.
all of their
Yeah.
waste. There is not supposed to be
Well,
on-site
that's what my
disposal.
friend told me, they had.
They're supposed to have it's a disposal license.
Yeah,
It's a disposal license,
Mhm.
and that company comes and picks that up and takes it to
And
their
that's what I
disposal
was told,
facility.
yeah.
So as far as outside burning and everything, I don't think that that's really even allowed by OMA or, because they have to count for all of their products.
Right,
And
right.
so
It's very
they,
strict.
mhm.
Got that place
So,
there.
I will put
That
a
thing's- That's a huge growth.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a huge growth. They also have some, I know Keith has brought it up a few times. I told him he needed to call OMA. There's some drainage coming off of that.
we're aware of
Some
that
water,
as
yeah.
well.
I don't
And
know what it is, if it's draining or what, but I said, you need to call OMA. That's the authority over, we have no
Right,
authority.
well, and that's what I told Christy too.
probably the fire department by Hydro.
Well, hydro, but
Hydro.
what's,
Or does
But is it
apply?
picking up, it could be picking up
I
the,
don't know. It's a
Happy travels.
jurisdiction, I think
that's all I have.
I hope to by next council meeting report back to you after I get this complaint filed with them
Cool.
and give you an
Thank you so
update.
much.
Thank you very
I'd
much.
like to throw out one semi-hammer. Before we, at planning commission, before we vote on those, I can't think of one applicant who would submit on review. We haven't asked about disposal, and they've said they have, it's all regulated, and so they've committed to that. They're committed.
Right.
Would that be in any type of application or form or minutes or anything?
That'll be in the minutes. I think.
Yeah.
Well, might be in the recorded minutes. I don't know that Kathy would have transcribed.
That's the one that used to be Remington's property, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I will say,
I
right
remember
now,
doing
because
that.
the way our ordinance is, we only have, so you all passed that, medical marijuana grows are only allowed by right in the IR district. So everything else that comes through goes to UPOR, but we don't, and all the UPORs have been for processing or dispensaries, and they really don't have any disposal issues for UPOR, for dispensaries or processing.
Right.
It's really to do with the grows that are gonna
But
happen.
I think the groves are subject to use permit on review too, because we kept that so that we would have a record where they are, and what they, because the council voted on it.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, since we're on this OMA, I know when I looked at the number of licenses for dispensaries, for grow, for processing, it outnumbered the number that we had actually came through council. Have we ever checked to see if any of these businesses have?
Check the.
Well, but they're required to get from the city. So the process is OMA requires for them to get their license, they have to get certain documentation from the city, determine what's a compliance certificate, that they have to get from them. So if they're, I mean, if someone's forging a document of some sort, they get it. I mean,
I don't know what, I don't know, I mean, I see like, let's say there's 20, grow houses, and there's only been 10 that passed through the city. And I don't know if those licenses have never
Well,
fully functioned out, or,
if they're operating without a state license.
Most applications, if we were seeing, they have to show approval from the license.
Well, no, it's actually opposite direction. They need a
Certificate.
certificate from the city, certificate of compliance before they can actually get their license. So it goes the other direction.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's what,
The
I'm not saying.
OMA requires them to get certificate of compliance from the city, that they comply with the city's regulations. And they've done everything they're supposed to do, then they take that to OMA, and then they can get their license from that point.
Oh, so are you asking if we have a check back so
Maybe
they can go back to, and here's the state?
No,
Oh,
what's that?
I said maybe they're hanging on to our certificate and not going to OMA.
Well, he's saying that they're actually, he's talking about the license listed.
yeah, the license on their
website.
record.
I have checked the website against the licenses
Oh,
that I
okay.
have for grow facilities,
Mhm.
and it's in sync.
Okay.
As far as any other type of,
Dispensary,
dispensary or
whatever.
anything else,
And it's pretty obvious in dispensaries, but the processing.
Are you talking about similar to her? Walk me through that again. because-
Well, no, it doesn't, facility processing, whatever, the process that the applicants are required to do, and there's much more to it than this, but they have to get a certificate of compliance from the city that they're operating in before they have to take that certificate of compliance to OMA to get their license.
But why would the city grant a license that wasn't approved by the owner?
We're not, well, we're saying that they get a certificate of compliance, if they have met our guidelines, what is required in a grow, a facility, what it does. So Janae can speak to that.
No, and I'm not
No.
trying to be controversial.
No, you're fine. No, anytime so say somebody, we've done several UPORs for dispensaries and for couple for processors. The grow facility is allowed by right, permitted use in the IR district. They don't have to come forward. They just have to be located in that zoning designation. So when they come forward and they say, hey, I've got this property, what is this zoning? There is a facility that already there currently. There are several up on Northeast 31st Street. And we look at the zoning and we look at if they have had a building permit submitted, or if they need to have a building permit submitted. And on that certificate of compliance that they download from the OMMA, we go through that. It goes through if they meet the zoning for the municipality, building, fire codes, any other political requirements, and then we sign off on it if they meet all those requirements. They take that application or that certificate of compliance that the city signs off on, and then they submit their application to OMMA with that certificate of compliance. And so from there, that's up to them to deal with their application and their licensure. And so after that, we don't have any issue. They do have to pay the $1,500 annual fee for the grow license to the city, as well as their business license. There is no other, we don't have any other fees for licenses for any type of medical marijuana businesses besides the grow facility.
And to answer your question, I think that it's going in the direction of like it is with the Able Commission. It's a prerequisite that the liquor store has a license from us before Able will give them one. And I think it's kind of heading in that direction.
Well, it makes sense because they need an address to get their It makes sense because they need an address with the OMA to say.
To go through.
Right.
I will say, when we do look into this, Kevin, as you're talking about having some special meetings go, I do know, like Oklahoma City, there are people who kind of, I know that there are processors that have kind of avoided Oklahoma City because they require you to actually build out exactly as you were going to do it. And I mean, I'm talking all your equipment in place, installed, basically millions of dollars worth of equipment, especially for the processing side, to have that invested and set up before you can ever get your certificate of compliance and for that to go forward. So they require you to go ahead and build that out. And it might be something that probably slows some things.
I have heard that.
Because people that way, right now, we're just really checking the building side of it. And
the building, fire, zoning, and
yeah.
everything. The one I will say, just from other municipalities that I'm familiar with, that they instituted a full medical marijuana ordinance, looked at every single zoning designation for every type of use, and instituted annual fees associated with every type of use, from the grow, processing, dispensary,
Transport.
What about lab?
Lab, research,
that is
education. And so the one thing with one that I'm familiar with and that was discussed, and what you're saying as far as Oklahoma City goes, is part of that state statute is that you have to treat those businesses as every other business. And so the one that I'm familiar with, Norman's, just say it, is that council had decided not to institute that policy because you're putting an undue burden, as you wouldn't on any other business that would come in for a Walgreens, a Walmart, or, as long as they meet the building and they meet the zoning, that we wouldn't make somebody spend that much investment and then maybe not even get their state license because they, for some reason, don't meet the requirements. And what they did is they adopted an addendum form to write any additional requirements that would then be submitted with the certificate of compliance to the OMMA, which there is a box on that compliance form at the end for the city to add any additional documents for requirements into that.
All right, we will
as well.
sufficiently roll this around whenever we have our meetings, so.
If I can, I'd like to throw out, Kevin pointed out to me the ordinance on that IR zoning and industrial zoning that we allow the grow facilities in, and it does not read what we discussed when we passed it. Because we stood up here and talked about the fact we were going to retain the UPOR requirement for that. And today, if you're correct, it's not in. So I would like to ask that you bring that back and add that in, because what we did that was to keep the registration requirement, make them come into us and come in and go through the process.
Okay, well, when we start talking about this, we will definitely look at that as well. All right, thank you. Any other council member comment? All right, item number 13 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second for adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.